Good afternoon, comrades, and welcome to our third session today that has been produced in collaboration with the wonderful Radical Anthropology group. At this session, we are delighted to have Camilla Power, who's going to speak on origins of theft and fire, which is tying in with what we will follow Camilla's talk, with a reading of the play Prometheus Bound, translated by Joe Legee. So in between Camilla's talk and the play, we will gather our 8 performers up here on the stage. So please take it away, Camilla. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Tam. Thanks for inviting me to give a prelude to your wonderful performance of the Aeschylus. I'm not going to talk only about Prometheus Bound or about just Prometheus, but I'm going to start with stories of origins and theft of fire, and that theme, looking particularly at hunting-gathering materials to start off with, because these are myths and stories reflecting rituals which come out of the Big Bang, the revolutionary origins that Chris was talking about this morning, but he didn't get around to all of it, so I can show some of it. And in particular, I'm just going to take a starting point in terms of the proto-ritual, the very first and possibly very oldest ritual on Earth. I hope you can get a glimpse of the Elan Bull Dance. Is one of the latest pictures taken of a real performance of Elan Bull Dance outside with the women as a dancing picket line outside a menstrual hut with a girl who is transforming into an eland bull. She will become a girl with horns. We're going to come back to that later. These ladies have their horns. They are horns of the great antelope eland, and they're performing mating posture of the eland. That girl, if any hunter tried to come anywhere near her first menstruation ceremony and looked at her, she could call down the lightning, she could look, her gaze would turn them to trees or stone. We're going to hear more about that later. So this is the sex strike, or the revolution that created language, in operation still hundreds of thousands or so years later in the Kalahari. Perhaps today those girls, instead of going to the menstrual hut, may go to school. The menstrual hut is like their real school in solidarity, is what it is. That is like our first starting point for culture itself, this situation. But let's just go to the very basic structures that in that menstrual hut the girl might have a tiny bit of fire, but it would be only like a little medicine fire, a sacred fire. It would not be a fire for cooking any meat. That girl is also being timed in accordance with the moon, the phases of the moon. And these structures were being analysed by the great analyst of mythology, Claude Lévi-Strauss, his book Raw and the Cooked. So we had this basic opposition of the blood of meat, which was raw, against fire when the meat had been brought back to be cooked. So this is a very fundamental opposition. Noise that goes along with the blood of the meat that's going to be cooked, of the meat that's only just been hunted or is about to be hunted, the blood. That noise would be like the noise of the women in their dances, in their rituals, in their songs. Whereas when the meat has been brought back to the fire and is cooking, there should be absolutely no noise. This is a fundamental structure. We associate incest or kinship or blood relations to that side, whereas marriage would be associated to the cooking fire. So this is like the phase of, that's the sex strike, where ritual is happening. That is the marriage, relaxation of taboo and sex strike, and the possibility of sex with marital partner. Okay, now this is Lévi-Strauss, Claude Lévi-Strauss before Chris came along, and from Chris's own analyses following Lévi-Strauss and his PhD. Lévi-Strauss was very much similar to Chomsky in the sense that he thought all these structures just came out of the mind. It wasn't a material reason for this, in particular, where he analysed 1,000 myths of the Amerindian cultures. But of course, Chris had a real material story from his understanding of the sex strike as to why this structure should be set up. Dark moon, the new moon, will be the time for the uprising, the ritual uprising of the women. They're demanding, they're menstruating together, as those Khoisan women, the Kua women there, would be painted with red while a girl is menstruating to demonstrate their solidarity. Menstruation, and then as the moon starts to, through the lunar cycle, the moon is starting to wax at night, and this makes it a good time for hunters to be hunting, and the bloodshed of the hunt, the bleeding meat has to come back at the full moon to the camp, because after full moon there'll be darkness at night, and you don't want to be out there with those big cats, and then the meat can be cooked. So we've got this structure now, with then the meat's cooked, everyone can have, consume the flesh, whether that is the delicious meat that's been cooked, or it is sex itself, marital sex itself. So marital sex, this side will not be marital sex. It's no to heterosexual sex. So that's our, now if we just look at the periodicity, the social periodicity that would come out of that model that Chris developed, or Revelations. This is one of the diagrams he's always used. We have that lunar periodic aspect to it, where at dark of the moon, people who are marital, they're disjoined. They are with their kin groups. Chris was talking about this morning, about the woman stays with mum, anybody else goes away, the husband goes away. Husband and wife together, full moon. Moon is as bright as day, so you can have your honeymoon experience, and then dark moon, separated, come back together, separated, come back together. Now, all these myths are exploring this situation of periodicity as the sort of fundamental rhythm of cosmos itself. And most of these myths, especially when they're coming from bodies of mythology which are pretty patriarchal, which Indo-European mythology is pretty patriarchal, they will be exploring the problem of how do you maintain periodicity like this. This is the default for human social organisation. You aren't all together in one place like little nuclear families. You're moving between your kin group, your marital partner, kin group, marital partner. Okay, so, and that tells your whole kind of syntax. You may not be able to read all the terms, but Chris's syntax of the moon waxing, the moon waning, incest, wetness, bleeding, raw taboo, hunger and being eaten. These are terms that are going to apply to Prometheus and his punishments. Oh, the eclipse was there. We had some lovely syntax this week with the lunar eclipse, solar eclipse, I'm so sorry. The noise and the chaos that's going on. The moon waning, everything calms down, everything's harmonious, day, life, marital sex, dry and cooked. Bleeding and raw, dry and cooked. Okay. So I'm going to take some of that into hunter-gatherer stories and hunter-gatherer actual ritual. Let's start with a bit of hunter-gatherer ritual, because basically, let there be darkness. That was one of the things that the moon was very good at last Wednesday evening. Let there be darkness. That is the time of real ritual power. And this is a photo that you can hardly see at all. A lovely photo from Jerome Lewis of a ritual context, Malobe, of Bayaka peoples in Western Congo forests, Western Congo Republic. And, okay, so this is an occasion where the moon, or the sky will be dark, the moon will be dark, women are singing their fabulous polyphony, their music, their ritual noise, but it's beautiful noise, and they will be in little conversations with the moon, who is their husband. Women's best husband, women's finest husband is the moon, yes? The biggest husband is the moon, thank you. The various translations of this in the Bayaka. And these, we can hardly see, this is typical, we can hardly see these spirits with their glimmers of bioluminescence that are rustling as they are lured by women's singing out of the forest. So what I was going to read, I was going to cross the other side of Congo and just going to read a little story of origins of fire, which is going to exemplify certain aspects of the theft of fire. So this is from stories from the Efe and Mbuti, who are over in the east in Ituri, and the tale of Matu, who's a very old woman, mother of Tore, the master of game, lord of the dead. And Tore used swings of liana, you can think sort of like Tarzan, swinging across, the one who swings across the abyss. Matu, the old lady, sleeps by his fire, but one day an Efe ancestor steals the fire and flees away with it. Waking up cold, Matu calls to Tore to swing out after that culprit and catch him. And he does. He catches it and the fire's restored. A second Efe brother tries to get the fire, but again, caught by Tore on the swing. The third is disguised as a magical bird flying down to the unguarded fire. Matu wakes with a startled scream again, but this time Tore cannot swing far enough to stop the thief. He calls the man his brother of the same mother. If only you'd asked me, we would have given you the fire. When Tore gets back to the camp, the old mother is dead and cold. Now Tore curses people with a punishment of death. The tale explains the origins both of fire and of death. And Tore is the name of the FMN secret society. Matu, whose name actually means menstrual blood, is the dying moon, the mother of the dead and the game. Okay, well, with the Mbuti people neighbouring to the Efe with the Tore society, the Mbuti hunters would have Molimo society and perform Molimo initiation. Now, Molimo itself is an instrument of darkness. That is, you can't really see, I mean, it's actually made out of a sort of plastic drain pipe that has been stolen from some logging camp somewhere. But it's the noises it makes in total darkness, which are the noises of all the animals of the forest. And the women are supposed not to be anywhere near, not to see anything to do with this performance. But yet, Colin Turnbull, who is documenting his beautiful book, Forest People, documenting the Molimo, realised that actually, just as Chris was talking this morning about this communism in motion, that where the women's ritual was performed, and then the men's ritual would come and take over, similarly, in this case, the men's ritual being performed would be invaded by the women. And in particular, the person who really took over the men's ritual, and especially the men's fire, was a really old, an ancient old crone. She was this very skinny bird-burned lady who had these very piercing eyes and intense expression and would go to trance. And she had come to teach initiate girls amongst the Mbuti people. And Turnbull, just a little description of how Turnbull describes what exactly she was doing. She had a number of episodes where she literally invaded the men's sacred space with their Kuma Malimo fire, the sacred fire of Malimo. She seemed to hover there an instant, that skinny old crone. She should have been burned to a cinder in a flash. She whirled around and kicked out with her feet, scattering sacred Molimo fire in all directions, blazing logs and glowing embers alike. She scattered right amongst the circle of men surrounding her, and then she danced away very erect and proud. The men, without even faltering in their song, quickly gathered all the scattered embers and threw them back onto the remaining coals. And then for the first time, they themselves moved in a dance of their own. They danced in a wild circle. As they danced, bodies swayed backwards and forwards, facing the fire, as though by imitation of the act of generation, they were giving the fire new life. And as they danced, the flames slowly began to rise, and as they rose, the men danced all the more violently until they brought the fire of Malima back to life. So twice again this happens. The old woman's kicking away, stomping out the fire, and then each time the strangely beautiful, exciting, erotic, says Turnbull, dance of the men gives it new life. Finally, the old woman concedes defeat and retreats among the others, which she doesn't get defeated for long. Shortly after the women have disappeared, they're meant to keep out the way, the men rearrange themselves around Kuma Malima, the sacred Malima. And Turnbull looks at his informant, Moke, and Moke is kind of wondering, do you get it? There's an old legend that tells it was women who first of all owned Malima, and of course the men stole it from them, and of course would have stolen the fire as well. So this enactment by the Ubuntu old crone, who's this really seer capable of trance, this enactment is very similar to the story of that periodic story of the fire going out, the fire being stolen, the fire being brought back in many ways. And that old woman, she doesn't leave it there because, first of all, she actually ties up. She goes in again to the men's fire space and ties them up, all up with rope and thread of twine, and they all have to just stand there while she's doing this. And Mocha says, this woman's tied us up. She's bound the men, bound the hunt, bound the Molino. We can do nothing. It's quite clear who's in control of the hunt and the fire. And then she actually brings the whole body of the Elima girls to come singing the Molino songs of the men. So we've got this thing of periodicity between darkness, fire going out, fire coming back, fire going out, fire coming back, and the periodicity around that, which is, it's a kind of implicitly got a lunar character. You go to a bit of Hadza material on origins of fire, and I'll tell these Hadza stories myself. Again, we get total, the ritual power, the ritual dances occurring dark moon. I can't show you Epime pictures because you can't take photographs of Epime dances. These are paraphernalia with which the men dancing become shadows. Women are singing, always it is women's choral, beautiful polyphonic singing, which takes everybody to this other world, to this other space, total darkness. There's only the Milky Way overhead, and you can barely glimpse shadows, perhaps a glimmer of the ostrich feathers or something, maybe in the dance. But this is always performed with no moon in the sky, Epine, and each moon will be Epine. Okay, so let's just have a little story, which is a kind of creation story for the Hadza, of the first people, Ikanawangube, Kenebe, and these first people, they're stick people. They just stand, they can be drawn in rock art with just kind of long stick legs. And one day the creator Heine is walking along with, finds a woman there, and he's brought an eland, the eland antelope, again, very important for the Hadza, like the Kalahari. And he asked the woman, can you cook this? And she thought, I've got no fire. She cannot bend down. She can't, because the legs won't bend. She cannot make fire, and even the earth is so wet and soaked, it's impossible to make fire. So Hannah, okay, we'll turn that earth up into the sky, and the sky now can rain, and that dry old sky is now the earth. So that world's turned upside down, and then Hannah gives her, he's able to light a fire on the earth and gives her the eland to be cooked, to be distributed to all, shared to everybody. And then when she has passed that meat around the whole camp, Hannah knocks the knees of the kind of red people, and now they can sit down by the fire, nicely organised, with a lovely fire and the lovely meat being shared to all. They are Gelanabe people now. Now the Gelanabe, the people of old, it's very nice, but there are no children. And the problem is, Hannah realises the problem is that, okay, there's adults, there's men and women, and they kind of have sex, but the men are aiming between the women's toes when they have sex, and they aren't getting any children that way. So Hannah follows a guy who's hunting his eland, and he taps him on the shoulder and says, you know the thing about the toes? Well, don't do that. Try the thighs, okay? And see how it goes. And so a day or two later, he finds this man again, who's getting his eland, and he says, well, how did that go? And he says, oh, very nice, very sweet. Good. And so, yeah, he said, Hannah says, well, just keep going. And gradually, of course, a few days, months, weeks later, that his wife is pregnant. And this is amazing. Hannah says, no, keep her inside, don't let anyone see you. But when she has the baby, and they bring it out for everybody, everyone's saying, oh, where did this come from? What's this baby? This is amazing. And you see, this man hasn't yet told everybody about the secret of sex. So Hannah says, well, you need to tell everybody. So he sends him on another hunt. He sends an eland out for the man to hunt, which he does successfully. And then the man has got his eland. He calls everybody else to come and help bring the eland back to the camp. But this is where the kind of power, the dark power lies. This is the devil in the story. But this character who comes and stands and stops him in his tracks, that's a really old Hadza word. It's an original Hadza word with those paleoto clicks. And the ko is a female ending. Sometimes this is called the mantis devil, a devil, a trickster type of character. The trickster is trying to stop this man getting back to tell the other guys the secret of sex. So there really stands like darkness in the way. But the men have fire now, so they burn the top of Nkoko's head, which is an interesting place to burn because it's sometimes associated with going into trance. It's actually got an association to that. It could be like that old woman who was kicking the fire away. Again, this is like a big sort of female monster mother who is trying to stop fire and stop sex. But the men manage to escape. Coca-Cola goes after them again, and what he does this time, they do this time is make the sun set much more quickly, traps the men in the dark of the night. They're there in the darkness, and so they're lost in the bush in the dark. But they have their fire. They can make their fire sticks, and they can cook the eland, they can share some of it. And they come through that night, and by the time they get the eland back to the camp, what actually happens that night is the man who knows the secret of sex has told everybody. So again, we have this conjunction of this periodicity between a darkness, the fire being used, darkness, fire being used, and it's associated to no sex or sex, one of those, that potential periodicity going on. Okay, so I'm going to, just for the last of these hunting stories, I don't know how much time I have here, but let me just do a little bit more with some Australian material, which actually comes from Chris's wonderful thesis, because this is a story of origins of fire, very much, and also origins of ritual power, stolen by men from women. And it comes from northeast Arnhem Land, the Yolngu peoples, as the Murungan peoples in literature, jungle wool sisters. Now, the reason for moving from the Abuti, the Bushmen, the African hunter-gatherers, who are all very tending to be very egalitarian, is in the situation of jungle wool. We're looking at a situation where men have really they openly acknowledge and will say they have stolen these things from women. So let's just look at jungle wool sister story a little bit. The two sisters are really depicted with this kind of painting as creating the world and giving birth, and they're incredibly powerful reproductive organs, giving birth to batches and batches of people and creatures. They have their supreme possession, their womb. Every effort is made to emphasize the potency of these reproductive organs, filled with enormous quantities of offspring released in childbirth in these great groups. Sisters are depicted as streaming with blood. We've got this whole idea of afterbirth blood, but they also drag along enormous clitorises along the ground, like making tracks, like great big snakes. And with these, they are actually able to impregnate themselves, as if they've got their powerful wombs and they can use the clitorises, their penises as well. So do they need men? No, don't need men. Not at all. In fact, the only man involved at the beginning of this is like a younger brother who is completely in awe of their ritual authority. They might have some incestuous sex at some point with this younger brother, so it's all very incestuous again on that blood side. And he said, yeah, you're my great leader. I always follow you, he says. No, don't believe him. So they go across the landscape. This is a very similar story to the Wabalak sisters, where they are naming all the trees, the things, the birds, the animals, everything, even the mud, the colours, the ochres, everything will have its names. And they are going across the landscape, like mapping that landscape. Sacred objects known as rangas come out of their wombs in the various named places for the women. In one example, a very large ranga fell from the younger sister's wombs, two sisters, one younger and older. After two women squatted down and a stone ranga fell from the womb of the younger one, this stone can be seen a short distance from a certain well, the Yao Yao well. And anyone can go and touch it. That stone is bigger than a house. It's huge. Women do not know it is a ranga. That means women today do not know its sacredness. But the women then created it. At Ungururi Nana on Elko Island, sisters left magic dreamings, the most important of which was the red ochre dream. Sisters are said to have spoken here. We leave this red ochre so that all the people can get it from us. And red ochre, according to anthropologist Ronald Byrne, is symbolic of the afterbirth blood shed by the two sisters. And today, and it's associated with redness of the sun. So we hear more about the sun and the fire. The myth explains when the sisters possessed the rangas, the ritual power conferred by their own sexual organs, they could compel men to hunt for them. In the old times, men used to get food for women, and women sat down on the inside and looked after the rangas, or the ritual power. Then something terrible happened. One day, they were camped, the sisters were in their usual sacred shade, a place of seclusion and intimacy prohibited to men. Unknown to them, a group of sons and brothers who recently emerged from their wombs were hiding nearby, enviously watching from afar this all-powerful sisters holding their sacred marriage ceremony, their own business, to which men could not come. And it was this ceremony where women made fire, rinjare, the sacred fire dreaming. Fire comes from the redness of the women's cunts. I'm sorry if that offends anybody, but I'm not going to use that very patriarchal, colonised V word. Cunts, 4-letter, etymology, ultra-female, and so I'm going to stick with that. Then adds, the sun's full disk at midday is actually called Dagu Gambai, which means cunt, okay? And it's from the vulvae of the sisters, the sun's ray comes. So this is telling us they're giving birth to fire. Fire, and if they want to hide that fire, that's where they're going to hide it. After the ceremony, the women hung their fighting dilly bags with red parakeet pendant feathers on the limb of a tree, and they went to collect shellfish. As soon as the women had gone, the men crept up. Men sat listening in their shade. When they heard no noise, no singing, no noise, all right, it's no good we are men. It's no good that women should have that sacred bag and all the dressings, and we should have nothing. We'll take it. Yes. So they came up to the women's sacred shade and went inside, and they found all the dreams, all the Ranga clan patterns. They began to dance and sing the sacred songs which they learned by listening to the women, and which are still sung today in Duatnala. As they sang, they looked in the direction the women had gone. They saw no sign of them. And they took down the sacred dilly bag of the women, dancing with it. The sisters, still out collecting their shellfish, suddenly heard a Junman bird crying loudly. "What's it crying for?" asked the younger one. "That bird cries to let us know. Perhaps something's happened to our sacred dilly bags. Maybe fire's burnt them. We better go back and look." They hurried off down toward the man. They set off. When they came back, they found nothing there. There's nothing there, sister. When they came, all they could tell was the tracks, the footprints of our brother Jangarwal. And they could have asked us, they could have taken, we could have given it to them. But so all they can see is the signs of the men's crime of the student, of the theft. So they set off in search of those culprits, hurried off down, and they saw Jangal brother and his companions looking up from the shade, seeing them. "What are we going to do?" thought the brother. He picked up his jungulum singing sticks, began to beat rhythmically while they all sang. The noise had gone to the men now. As soon as the sisters heard the beating of the singing sticks, the sound of the men singing, they fell down and began to crawl along the ground. So this story is telling us about it's telling us about an overthrow, a historic overthrow of the female sex, confirming that what had really been stolen from the women, from their symbolic dilly bags, their own cunts, was their ability to control their own sexual availability, their ability to say no, their ability to resist. They're forced on the ground by the power of the men's songs. They do console themselves. The younger woman says, "Well, what are we going to do now?" And the older woman says, "Well, I think we can leave that. Men can do it now." we can spend our time collecting bush foods for them. It's not right. They should get that food as they've always been doing. We know everything. We've really lost nothing. We remember it. We can let them have that small part. But aren't we still sacred, even if we've lost the bags? Haven't we still got our wombs? The younger sister agreed with her. So among the dreamings left behind, the sacred fire dreaming, which now is in the centre of the Nara ritual owned by the men. Fire whose source was the redness of women's vaginas. Now this last detail is just worth noting in terms of the sex right model from Chris. Menstrual prohibition means if the meat is bleeding, has blood on it, it has to come back to the camp. That's where it should be. And then it should be properly circulated and distributed accordingly. But if the women's power is broken, the ritual power is broken, we would expect that by that breaking, then the economic situation reverses, then women can't use ritual power to get the men doing hunting for them. It's instead men's ritual power getting women to provide them with everything they need for performing ceremony and ritual, which is exactly, that stolen ritual power compels women to bring food for men. It's exactly what is confirmed in this situation and what the Mungin or the Yongu told to both Warner and to Ronald Berndt. Okay, we have again origins of fire. So we're getting this origins of fire in connection with this periodic kind of oppositions going blood, fire, a periodicity of phase of blood, phase of fire, with control over meat and control over sex kind of going together, and the ritual power to be able to control meat, meaning control and ability to say no over sex, that being associated to stories of origins of death and origins of sex. Let me now go into what we can bring out, getting a little bit long here, but we can get through, what we can bring out of Prometheus episodes, because we are obviously not dealing with stories from hunter-gatherers here. However, there are many remnants of the structures for hunter-gatherers in this. Now, so I'm reading the two major episodes in Greek literature of Prometheus, and the first is the Theogony of Hesiod, which is an older literary source than Aeschylus, in fact. And I'm just going to break down the episodes into blood, fire, and we'll see what that story tells us. And it's really making Prometheus into a real kind of trickster, in fact. And it's called, famously, Trikepnekonim, where he is acting, he's in that generation of the tyrants, the titans, I should say, not tyrants, he's not a tyrant. And his mother in the Hesiod, well, I'll talk about his pedigree in a moment with Aeschylus, but he is acting as the arbiter. He's supposed to be this fair arbiter of what sacrifices should be offered to the gods. And he's going to trick Zeus. He's from that older generation of Titans, the one that comes before the Olympian gods, the Zeus who disposed of his father, his parents. And he dresses up. He gets Zeus to choose between two piles of offerings. What offering would he like to choose, is what Prometheus is doing. So he puts together a pile of bones, old bones, but he dresses up the bone with a lovely garnish of silvery, juicy fat. And the other pile is like an old ox stomach, even a bit dried up, but inside, delicious, fatty meats and lots of flesh inside there with real fat. So he's kind of turned things inside out. What's inside is on the outside, what's outside as on the inside. These are very tricksterish characteristics. Hesiod kind of tries to make out that Zeus can see through this, but that doesn't convince anybody. Zeus is clearly tricked, and he goes for the pile of bones. And this ordains what is to be offered to the gods with the lovely smell, the lovely garnish of fat, but it's just bones. Whereas all the rest should go to the people. I'll just say something about the Hadza, because of course the Hadza Epimer is a feast for men where they are supposed to be giving meat to God, but actually they kind of gobble up this juicy meat, this particularly fatty meats, and say that they're giving it to God. So they're doing a sort of deception there, which is kind of against women, and Prometheus is doing this deception to Zeus. And it's interesting to think what role Zeus is playing here. So Prometheus has done this magic on the meat. Zeus is so angry, he then takes fire away from humankind. If they had it even in the first place, he hides the fire. Then Prometheus goes in the face of fire and finds that fire. He steals it in his fennel stalk to bring it back down to men. And it's as a result of that that Zeus is going to punish him with Prometheus bound, nailing him halfway between heaven and earth. And this is the ultra punishment he's going to endure for supposedly for eons, forever. And that's when his liver, the inside, is being brought right out and exposed to the prey bird, the eagle of Zeus, tears it out, but then that liver in the darkness regrows. So we get this cycle of growth. The liver from the inside is brought out to daylight and consumed in the light, but then in the nighttime, darkness, it regrows. So we get an extraordinary sort of pulse or rhythm, incredibly fast rhythm of this consumption and then regrowth. Now, what's a really extraordinary part of the Hesiod, it's kind of in a separate place in the Hesiod work and days, but because of all this, Zeus has another punishment, which is for men to get the first woman, the one who becomes known as Pandora, but in the Hesiod she doesn't even have that name. The first woman is given to Prometheus's less intelligent brother, Epimetheus, and that is the woman who has the jar, becomes known as the box, the pithos, which when it's opened, supposedly by the completely frail, completely curious, completely tricky, completely deceptive woman, this is very misogynist, this Hesiod, it releases all the illnesses, all the sickness, the first death, the first illness. So we get the first woman, implication the first sex, and the first death, and the first fire. All of those things going in together. So we've got that blood, fire structure. We've got Prometheus acting very trickster-like in that story, with the insides being taken to the outside. This is a completely trickster characteristic of how the tricksters offer their own kind of innards as food. It's very typical hunter-gatherer. Okay, I've got one last bit. You're going to make it. And I'm going to try very quickly to do this because obviously it is relevant for the reading with Prometheus bound. The Aeschylus Prometheus really doesn't seem to be at all the same character as Hesiod's trickster. And people have doubted whether Aeschylus was really the author of Prometheus bound because of his absolute antagonism to Zeus, his disdain for Zeus's thuggery, utter thuggery and tyranny. With all of nearly all the male characters of the play, apart from Hephaestus and Hermes, Oceanus maybe not, but all the characters of the play are really his henchmen, and they don't even have more name than strength, violence. It's like they don't even deserve a name as such. But the key kind of part, well, we have this very important thing running through the play, the chorus of the Oceanides, who are all the daughters of Oceanus, All the water spoke, the fluid, wet, female chorus through that whole play. And indeed, both Prometheus and Io, we'll talk about in a moment, have a pedigree with their mothers. In Hesiod, Prometheus' mother is Oceanides. And Io's mother also, and she is the daughter of a river god, Aeschylus. So they are the descendants. They have even possible maternal cousin linkage, belonging to an ancient sort of matrilineal clan, if you like. Okay, Io. I showed you right at the beginning, when Io introduces herself here, it may be a slightly different translation in the reading, when she's introducing her, she comes across Prometheus. She's galloping, galloping, galloping in the form of this heifer, white heifer, going madly through the world, stung by gadfly. Prometheus nailed against Caucasus, totally stuck. And this girl is as a cow. She is the girl with horns. Now I showed you girl with horns right early stage with the actual hunt-gathering dance, the Elam bull dance, where the women have their horns to make sure no hunter comes near, where the girl herself is the Elam bull in that dance. And I'm going to say that Io is absolutely in the type. The girl with horns in Bushman stories would be a depiction of a menstrual secluded initiate, as she would be. And let's just think of the story of Io. She is a moon princess of Argos, Argive moon princess, priestess, sorry. Zeus, what does Zeus the third want to do? He wants to rape anything that he fancies. He wants to come along and grab Io. Io says no, she doesn't want that. She's hiding in her shrine, her menstrual shrine, if you like. She appeals to her father, the river god Inachus. Inachus consults some oracles and decides, oh no, you should go and do what Zeus bids. Io belongs, she's under the auspices of Hera, the sister goddess of Zeus, and Hera is determined Zeus shouldn't get hold of Io. Zeus turns Io into the cow, but Hera says, oh, this beautiful heifer, give it to me. And Zeus can't say no, it's like trying to get a demand sharing that, can't say no. But what Hera does is send Argos, the many-eyed Argos, as the guard, actually a kind of dragon guard of that girl initiate, to look after her, to guard her. Zeus sends his henchman, Hermes, first of all, so we can see on Argos all these eyes all over him. He's got 1,000 eyes, 10,000 eyes, all these eyes that are watching over Io. And Hermes comes, lulling Io to a sleep, but then decapitates him. So this is a dragon killer. Hermes is going to be the lick-spittle henchman of Zeus. He does that, kills off Argos. Io apparently is captured, but Hera sends the gadfly to sting her. And this just a little bit of that story, we're going to hear it. Io is sent onto a mad career, an absolutely mad gallop all around the world, which she suddenly comes across here, Prometheus. She's a menstrual girl who should be in her menstrual hut in the same place, going to the other world, but she's been sent galloping madly in her career. Prometheus, when she meets him, is nailed on Caucasus. Now this is a rather romantic picture from Salvator Rosa. The actual punishment of Prometheus does not happen till after this eagle consuming his liver, tearing it out, and then the liver regrows. It does not happen till after the end of the play, after Hermes has tried to get the poor, tortured, tormented Prometheus to tell the secret of secrets who is going to overthrow Zeus. Prometheus, completely disdainful, tells him, no, go. And then he starts to endure that punishment. But it's very, very clear, if Io is the imagery, is the imagery goes with a girl who's menstruating in menstrual seclusion, has now been sent galloping around the world, Prometheus stuck there in a state of torment and torture. So even Salvatore Rosa wouldn't have known any of this, but he's painting him quite clearly, bleeding genitals. There's that very good depiction on the poster for this talk with the eagle and the blood just dripping off Prometheus. He's a menstruating male initiate in that circumstance. Prometheus is taking, like the Australian situation, taking some of that reproductive potency, the ritual potency that originally belonging to Io, but he does it at a price. He does what they have a very intimate conversation, very powerful conversation, Io and Prometheus, about, well, first of all, the fact that who is responsible for their terrible sufferings. They both know it's Zeus that Olympians are. They both know that. The Okeanides, working between them, who are related to both of these people, are telling them, are kind of getting them to talk to each other and understand each other. Io comes across Prometheus and says, who are you? What have you done? What is this? And she's completely in a state of crazed, doesn't know where she is. Where will my endless journeys bring me? But what sin? We're son of Kronos, Zeus. What have I done? What sin did you find in me? Burn me with fire, let the earth swallow me, throw me as food for sea serpents. I've wandered so far, I've been punished enough. I cannot tell you how to escape from pain. I cannot tell how to escape from pain. Do you hear my voice? It is Io, the girl with horns. Prometheus wants to, he has the power to calm her down, to let her know. And in the first place, he doesn't think Io can bear it until the Okeanides say, no, tell her. She wants to know. She wants to know where she's going to go. She wants to know what's happening. So what Prometheus does is gives her two vital areas of knowledge. And this is his foreknowledge, Prometheus' foreknowledge. Where she's going to go in her great journey, which is basically mapping the landscape of the Greek world. And he's going to tell her how she's going to have descendants down through time till ultimately a descendant who's going to destroy the eagle and enable Prometheus' escape. So just a couple of things from that. In terms of the actual journey, the way Prometheus describes it is literally going from one lot of Greek, because they are left in the Greek mythology, even the Indo-European patriarchal mythology, Greek female coalitions on sex strike. So he describes her journey to the Amazons. He describes her journey to the Phorcides, the sisters, the Graiai sisters, are the ones who have just one tooth and one eye between them. Their whole body, their old grey body. And they are sisters of the Gorgons. Again, a sex strike body of females who can turn a man to stone with a look. And then ultimately, he's describing the ultimate Greek sex strike coalition, Danaids. The Danaids, the 50 sisters of daughters of Danaus, who all got ready for their wedding night with great big pins, which rather than have sex with husbands forced on them, they used the pins to kill off. So this is again, blood overcomes the fire, with one solitary exception. Now when Prometheus has given her the map of her whole movements, she's going to go right around the Black Sea, right around through into Afghanistan, Persia, India, all the way back into Africa, the Nile Valley, Ethiopia, to have finally a son by Zeus when he's being gentle, apparently, that will mean she will have descendants at the 5th generation. The descendant is Europe, who's another one that gets abducted by Zeus the bull. Let's repeat the story. Hypermnestra. Now, who is Hypermnestra? She is the scab of the Danaids, the one that lets her husband off, and therefore she has descendants who happen to be dragon killers. Descendant Perseus, who killed the Gorgons, and supposedly rescued Andromeda from the Gorgons, who was with her coalition. Now men to stone, but of course Perseus uses his mirror, so they cannot turn him to stone, and he's able to slay Medusa, cut off her head with all her snaky hair. And finally, Heracles, again, a dragon killer, but one who comes back after his labours to kill the eagle that has been preying on Prometheus. So what have we got? We've got the knowledge, the ritual knowledge and the ritual secrets being kind of taken over by Prometheus through all this incredible, I mean, if he's a male initiate being tortured, like kind of young men being prepared for a war, the Amazon, Papua New Guinea, various places where this kind of torture of cutting of genitals, etc., occurs. And he is kind of administering to Io all that she needs to know to be able to restore her cycles, her actual human form, her cycles, and the descendants. So he's mapping Io's journey through space, through time. And this is a kind of trade between them of their ritual secrets. I think that's good. We'll let you hear the rest of the story from
Hi guys, if we come, well done Camilla, thank you. So if we come up, our cast, and if, I think we should have the women together. Gideon's guy has to go off, so if you come in, go in these seats. Women there. Dot, you there, and you on the end, Colin, and then you two here, and then I think we might have one seat too many. Sky, you can go at the end because you're, just in case you have to nip off. Just sit beside yeah. And then I think there's 1, 2, seat 2. Yeah. Has everybody got a script? Yes, yep. Okay. I'm going to work on it. Great. Now that was wonderful from Camilla. This is an exam. Yeah. Come on, Sky. So we're just carrying straight on. I'll just keep going. Grab it and on. Yeah. So that wonderful talk from Camilla is an interpretation, of Prometheus bound that you won't hear anywhere else, I don't think. I wanted to look at this play because Darko Suvin, whose work we've been celebrating quite a bit and focusing on this week, he's written a wonderful long essay on Prometheus Bound called The Long Hope, and with the idea of the long hope as being that Prometheus eventually, after thousands of years being bound to this rock, getting his liver eaten every day, finally is able to escape. And he draws on that. And this figure of Prometheus has been celebrated by Marxists for a very long time. From Marx himself. Marx said that Prometheus is the patron saint of the philosophical calendar. He saw him as an absolutely essential figure. And you know, there's a magazine, and then seeing that, interesting with Chris today, that even good old Chomsky picked up on Prometheus, it seemed. But what I thought was particularly wonderful is the idea that we could, you know, as we've been doing in some ways, of taking poetry, taking, you know, cultural forms and applying Marxist theory to them. And this is the furthest we've got really so far, but this is a beginning as well. We're going to have a reading of the play now, but with it being informed by what Camilla has said. It could have been the other way round, we could have done the play and then, but this seems a good idea, that you have that idea, which is unique, as I say, informing this reading. We have just met, some of us haven't even just met for the very first time, and we've not had a reading of this play. Have no idea really how long it's going to be, but we are going to rattle through it, comrades. We will hopefully still have time for a discussion afterwards. We've taken it that we could go sort of max up until 6 o'clock, say. But when I've seen it, audiobook versions of it, it's just over an hour sometimes, an hour and a quarter it might be. Yeah, so without further ado, I'll introduce the characters so that you have that knowledge. Kratos, as Camilla said, might is sky. There's a figure, Bia comes in, there's sort of two henchmen, but Bia, force, doesn't say anything, so we'll just leave Bia to your imagination. Hephaestus, if that's right, the god of fire and metalwork, is played by Robin. Prometheus, I've bagged the best part for myself, the son of the Titan Earth goddess, Themis. The chorus made of the daughters of Okeanos. Okeanos, the Titan god of the ocean, is also played by Robin. But the chorus, being played by Esther and Erin, and Io, who was brought up, the daughter of King Inachos of Argos, is played by Yana, and Colin, at the end there, is playing Hermes, the messenger of Zeus. And I'll do, if there's any necessary stage directions, I'll do them as well. So we begin with Kratos and Hephaestus.
We have arrived at the far limit of the world. These are the Scythian mountains, desolate and vast. Hephaestus, you must carry out the Father's will and bind the criminal to this steep, looming rock with chains of adamant, unbreakable. It was your flower he stole, the bright and dancing flower, and gave its wonder-working power to the mortals. This is the crime for which he must now pay the price to all the gods, that he may learn to love the tyranny of Zeus and quit his friendship with the human race.
Kratos and Bia, through you, the Father's edict is perfectly fulfilled. Your task is done. But I don't have the courage to chain a god who is my kin by force to this storm-swept ravine. And yet, necessity compels me to it. It is a grave thing to slight the Father's word. High-visioned son of straight-counselling Themis, not of my own will, but compelled by the same power that holds you captive. I'm going to forge you to this barren cliff, alone, far from all human company, with metal bonds impossible to break. No mortal voice or form will bring you solace. Scorched by the sun, your skin will lose its bloom. You'll be glad when night descends, draping her gaudy cloak around the day, and glad when dawn dispels the morning frost. Thus at all times one torment or another will plague you. Your rescuer is not yet born. This is the fruit of your philanthropy. A god, you scorn the anger of the gods by granting mortals honour above their due. For that, you will keep vigil on this rock, upright, unsleeping, and never bend a knee. And many a groan will pass your lips, and sighing, bitter lamentation, all in vain. Zeus's vengeance is implacable, his power is new, and everyone with newborn power is harsh.
Why hold back now? What's all this foolish pity? Why don't you hate the god's worst enemy, the one who gave your treasure to those dayflies?
Kinship holds fearsome power. So does good fellowship.
Yes, but to disregard the Father's words, how can that be? Do you not fear that
How
more?
pitiless you are, insolent.
What good is there in shedding tears for him? You're fretting uselessly on his behalf.
My skill, my handicraft, I hate you.
I hate it. You may rest assured, your skill is not to blame for this one's suffering.
I wish my skill was someone else's lot.
There are no carefree gods except for Zeus. He rules us all, so he alone is free.
I recognize that now. I see it clearly.
Then hurry up and throw the chains around him before the Father sees you wasting time.
I have the harness ready, as you see.
Encase his arms in it, and pound your hammer against those nails and pin him to the rock.
Your work is getting done, you needn't worry.
Now drive those nails in deeper. Leave no slack. He's monstrously ingenious at escape.
They'll sooner move the mountain than this arm.
Then bind the other arm, to let him know his cleverness can't match the mind of Zeus.
No one can justly blame me, except for him.
Now drive that wedge right through his chest, and let its bite reach deep into the rock.
Oh, pitiful Prometheus, forgive me.
More pity for the enemy of Zeus. Take care you don't bewail yourself someday.
You see a sight no eye should have to see.
I see a villain getting his deserts. Now clap that iron hoop around his waist.
I'm forced to do this. You don't have to press me.
I'll press you, and I'll goad you if I must. Get down and manacle his knees and thighs.
The job is done. It didn't take me long.
Now pin his shackles tight with all your strength. A stern taskmaster will assess our work.
Your tongue repeats the language of your face.
Be soft, if that's your way. But don't begrudge me my iron will and furious disposition.
His legs and arms are tightly bound. Let's leave.
Go play the rebel now. Go plunder the god's treasure and give it to your creatures of a day. What portion of your pain can mortals spare you? The gods who named you the forethinker were mistaken. You'll need forethought beyond your reckoning to wriggle your way out of this device.
Execratos Bia, Hephaestus, Prometheus alone. O sky, O soaring winds and brightness of the air, O river springs and countless laughter of the ocean's waves, O Mother Earth, O Sun, all-seeing, brilliant eye, I call you all to witness. See what I, a god, must suffer at the hands of gods. Witness the torture and disgrace I must endure through endless time. Miseries designed for me by the new monarch of the blessed. Oh, terrible sorrows, present and to come, what end is there? I say this, yet I knew it all before. All that shall be foreseen and clearly known. What hidden hurt could take me by surprise? I'll bear as lightly as I can what fate decreed for me. I know full well no power can stand against necessity. And yet I cannot accept my lot, neither in silence nor in speech. That I was yoked in chains for bringing gifts to mortal men, I hunted out and stole the secret spring of fire. and hid it in a fennel stalk, to teach them every art and skill with endless benefit. For this offence I must now pay the penalty to live nailed to this rock beneath the open sky. What is that? Where? This murmuring, this subtle scent near. Though I cannot see it, is it a god? Is it a mortal, or god, or mortal, both at once? Who comes to the world's edge to witness my pain? Or to what other purpose? See the ill-fated god in chains, the enemy of Zeus, a vile affront to all who walk the halls of Zeus, punished for his excessive love of man. What's this? Close and by again, this whirring in the air like wings of a gigantic bird approaching? Whatever it is, I fear it is. I fear it.
The daughters of Aeschylus enter in a winged chariot.
Don't be afraid. We come as friends. With rapid wing beats and with our father's hard-won consent, I flew, borne on the backs of coursing winds, to find you on this barren rock. The sound of hammered steel rang through my cavern in the sea, startling my sober modesty to rush off barefoot on this chariot's wings.
Ah, daughters of prolific Tethys and Father Ocean, whose restless waters circle the earth, look at me bound to the topmost cliff of this steep gorge in chains. See, the cruel watch I must keep.
I see you, though my eyes are dimmed by terror and a haze of tears at your predicament, your body racked and withering, disgraced and cruelly bound in chains. New helmsmen steer Olympus and Zeus in their command respects. In their command respects no law but that of willful rule, and all who once were great, he now destroys.
If he had banished me beneath the earth, beneath the house of Hades, down to the endless depths of Tartarus, and bound me there in chains of adamant, no god, no other being could feast on my misfortune. But here I hang up high, a plaything for the winds to buffet, and for my enemies to gloat on.
What god, what creature would be so hard of heart as to delight in this? Who would not groan with pity at your sight, except for Zeus? His wrath is constant, his resolve to crush the progeny of heaven will not relent, until his heart is satisfied or by some guileful ruse, another seizes his unconquerable throne.
And yet, though I am tortured now and bound immovably, the Lord of the Immortals will one day have need of me to show him the new plot that dooms his scepter and his pride. No honeyed words or threats will sway me to tell him what I know, until he frees me from my chains and grants me what he owes me for this outrage.
You are so daring, unbending in the face of such atrocious pain, but you give too much freedom to your tongue. A stab of fear pierces my soul with anguish and foreboding. Alas, it is your future that frightens me. From what safe harbour can there be? For what safe harbour can there be from the remorseless hate of Cronos' son? His mind is closed to all appeal.
I know very well how cruel he is. I know he rules by whim, and yet the day will come when fear compels him and his spirit breaks. His heart will soften. His rage will finally relent. He will be eager for my friendship, and I will await him eagerly.
Reveal it all to us. Tell us the story. For what iniquity did Zeus arrest you and punish you with torture and disgrace? Tell us, unless telling adds to your pain.
To talk about these things is painful, but silence too is painful. There's no escape from misery either way. When anger first sprang up among the gods and quickly whirled them into strife, some wanting Zeus to seize the throne of Cronos, while others rose in fury against such rule, I offered to advise the Titans, the children of heaven and earth, but was unable to persuade them. For they, proud of their strength and arrogant, despised my ploy, believing they could win with little effort and by force alone. My mother, though, Themis, Gaia, she's called by many names, had given me foreknowledge of what would come, that victory would fall to those who show superior guile, not might. I told them these prophetic words, explained them. They did not deem them worth consideration. I chose the best of all my options then, to join my mother and ally with Zeus. A willing offer, willingly accepted. It was upon my prompting and my plan that now the pitch-dark depths of Tartarus hold ancient Kronos and his cohort captive. That was my service to the tyrant god, and this is how he pays me. This is a sickness among tyrants. They cannot trust their friends. As to the charge for which he tortures me, I will tell you. No sooner was Zeus seated on his father's throne than he assigned to all the gods their several honors and ordered his dominion. But the sad, care-laden breed of mortals he ignored, for he intended to expunge their race and grow another one more to his liking. No one opposed this scheme except for me. I was the one who dared. I saved those death-bound creatures from being destroyed and scattered into Hades. And that is why you see me racked by suffering, terrible to endure and piteous to behold. Because I pitied mortals, my punishment is merciless. And yet, though I am nailed here for the world to gape at, this spectacle dishonors Zeus himself.
His mind would be of iron, and himself of stone, who does not tremble at your plight, Prometheus, with wrath and pity. I wish my eyes had never settled on this sight, for now my heart is wounded.
Yes, my friends suffer at the sight of me.
Did you perhaps go further than you told us?
I gave men power to stop foreseeing their death.
What cure did you prescribe for this disease?
I sowed blind hopes to live as their companions.
Truly, you brought great benefit to mortals.
I gave them fire.
Bright fire. Do the ephemerals have it now?
And from it they will learn much craft and skill.
Are these, in truth, the charges on which Zeus...
Torments me and will never let me go.
So is there no term set to your ordeal?
No term except when it seems good to him.
But how will it seem good to him? What hope have you? Do you not see your fault? I dare not say it. Let the pronouncement that would hurt us both remain unspoken, but find a way to end this.
It is very easy, with one's foot outside the circle of disaster, to counsel him who dwells within it. But I have known this all along. I transgressed willfully, I won't deny it. By helping mortals, I drew suffering on myself, and did so of my own will, freely. Yet never did I think that by such punishment I would be made to parch suspended in midair, clamped to this barren solitary rock. But don't lament over my present woes. Descend from your high carriage, stand beneath me, that you may hear what is to come and know the whole of it. For my sake, please, come down and share my sorrow. Misfortune is a migrant bird that settles, now here, now there, on each of us in turn.
Not to unwilling ears have you spoken, Prometheus, and gladly down from my winged car and the luminous sky's sacred highway of birds, with soft treading feet I descend, to light on this rugged ground, longing to hear your tale to the end.
Enter Okeanos on a winged horse.
I've travelled far to find you, Prometheus, and come to the end of my journey, guiding my swift-winged bird by the power of thought without reins, compelled by blood ties and feeling your fate. But even kinship aside, in my heart, no one dwells higher than you. Know this, for flattery is not in my nature. So, tell me how I can help you, and you will never speak of a friend more faithful than Okeanos.
Well now, what's this? Have you too come to watch me suffering? Where did you summon the courage and why to leave the stream that bears your name and your rock-roofed cave that built itself and come here to this motherland of iron? Was it to talk about my torment? Was it to share the taste of my anger? Look at me then and view the display. Witness the friend of Zeus who helped create the tyrant's rule, twisted in agony by his commands.
I see, Prometheus, and I want to give you better wisdom. Brilliant though you are, know yourself and be willing to meet what is new, for a new master rules the gods now. You brandish words like weapons, sharpened by anger. If Zeus on his high throne of majesty should hear them, your present agonies will seem like child's play. Oh, poor suffering wretch, give up this wrath of yours and find a way to end your suffering. Now, my words may sound old-fashioned to you, but these are the wages for too insolent a tongue. Humility, just a small touch of it would serve you well, Prometheus. You do not bend. You do not avoid disaster. Indeed, draw down upon yourself more troubles than you have. Now, if you will take me as your teacher, you will not kick against the goads, knowing that he, the king, who rules by his own right, is harsh and owes account to no one. Now, I will go and see what I can do to set you free. But you, quiet, and don't talk so freely. Does your own high intelligence not teach you that a loose tongue courts punishment?
I envy you that you escaped all blame, though you risked everything to lend me your support. Now leave it be, and let it not concern you. You won't succeed, he will not be persuaded. Just see to it that you don't come to harm.
You counsel others better than yourself. To me, facts are more eloquent than words. Now don't try to hold me back, my will is set, and I am sure, indeed very sure, that Zeus will grant me my request and free you from these torments.
For this I praise you, and will never cease to praise you. Your bold heart knows no limits, but it's no use. Your pains will be no help to me at all. So don't concern yourself. Steer a wide berth from all action and rest easy. My misery does not seek companion, far from it. To know my brother Atlas stands at the gates of evening, bearing upon his shoulders the weight of heaven and earth, too vast for his encircling arms, gives me no comfort. With grief as well, I saw the earth-born dweller in Sicilia's cave, the 100-headed monster, Typhon, conquered, his fury violently subdued, who once braved all the gods with gruesome jaws, hissing out terror, eyes ablaze, aiming to crush the sovereign tyranny of Zeus. But flying down against him came Zeus's weapon, the sleepless fire-breathing thunderbolt, which cast him out of his triumphant boast, for he was struck in the very middle of his power, and all his strength turned into ash. And now, a sprawling, helpless form, he lies pressed down close by the narrows of the sea beneath the roots of Etna, while high above him, on the peak, Hephaestus sits and clangs his red-hot oar. But one day from within there shall burst forth rivers of fire, devouring with ferocious jaws the far-spread plains of fruitful Sicily. Such boiling wrath will Typhon spew forth, missiles of fire, heat-snorting floods unstoppable. Those Zeus lightning burned him to a cinder. But you know this, you don't need me as a teacher. Save yourself as you know best. For my part, I'll drain out this suffering until the day when Zeus gives up his wrath.
Prometheus, don't you understand? Words are physicians to a mind that's sick with anger.
Yes, you soothe the heart at the right moment, not try to check its swelling rage by force.
If you see harm in someone's goodwill, bracing itself with courage, what is it? Please instruct me.
Childish simplicity and pointless effort.
Let me be sick with this disease. It is wise to play the fool while being in one's right mind.
I'll be the one who will be thought a fool.
Clearly your words are sending me back home.
So that your pity won't draw hate against you.
From him that now commands omnipotence?
Beware of that one's heart when stirred to anger.
Your fate, Prometheus, is my teacher here.
Then leave, go home, and keep that understanding.
I'm on my way already as you say that. The four-legged bird is fanning with his wings the boundless track of air. He will be glad to bend his knee in his home stable.
Exit Oceanus.
I wait for you, Prometheus. and I mourn your terrible fate. Tears and more tears stream down my cheeks. My eyes are fountains. This is a tyrant's act, cruel and remorseless. Zeus rules with self-made laws and hurls contempt upon the gods of old.
The whole earth wails aloud in lamentation, weeps and groans, mourning the ancient majesty that was the kingdom you and your brothers ruled. Even in Asia's vast holy realm, a cry resounds of mortals wounded by your pain.
And the dwellers of Colchis, armoured girls, fond of ferocious war. And on the outmost edge of earth, Scythia's throngs sojourning near Lake Maeotis.
And the flower of Arabia's warlike youth, far in Caucasian lands, holding their high-cragged citadel with a roar, brandishing sharp-pointed weapons.
The ocean's wave, once risen, falls with a groan of sorrow. The depths call out their endless grief. Hades' dark kingdom weeps unheard below. The springs of sacred flowing streams laments your terrible suffering without cease.
Don't think that I am silent out of pride or stubbornness. My backward-turning thoughts eat at my heart on seeing myself discarded in this way, and yet who else but I marked out for these new gods their bounds and privileges? But I won't speak of this. You know it. Listen instead to what I have to tell of human misery. How I gave shrewdness to their childish minds and taught them how to reason. It's no reproach to humans when I say this, but to make clear the benefit I brought them. From the beginning they could see, but seeing was useless to them, and hearing they heard nothing. Like dreams with shifting shapes, their long lives ran their course in meaningless confusion. They had no knowledge of brick houses built to face the sun. They knew no carpentry. Like ants, they burrowed underground and dwelt in sunless caves. They could not tell with certainty the approach of winter, or of flowery spring, or summer with its fruits. Their every act was without purpose, until I showed them the rising and the setting of the stars, not easy to discern, and numbers too, the subtlest science I invented for them, and the joining of letters, which is the very memory of things, and fecund mother to the muses' arts. I was the first to bring wild beasts under the yoke, slaves to relieve mortals of work that was too hard for their weak bodies. I taught the horse to love his reins and saddle, and harnessed him, the very emblem of a rich man's pride, to the swift-running chariot. And who but I made for the mariner his cloth-winged, sea-traversing vehicle? Such skills and such devices did I give to mortals, with diligence and care, but I have no device to free myself from this disaster.
Disgrace and suffering have warped your judgment. You are confused, like a bad doctor who has fallen ill. You cannot find the potion that would heal you.
You will be more astonished when you hear the rest from me. How many arts and skillful means I invented, the greatest of them this. If anyone fell ill, there was no remedy, no healing food or drink, no salve, no potion. For lack of medicine, they wasted, until I showed them how to mix soothing elixirs that can steer the course of any sickness. The various forms of prophecy, I laid them out and made a system of them. And it was I who first distinguished among dreams those that would come to pass, and who divined for humans the secret sense of calls and broken words and chance encounters on a journey. I taught them how to read the flights of the crook-taloned birds for signs auspicious and of evil portent, and mark their different ways, each kind distinct, for what they feed on, their mutual hatreds and affections, their rituals of assembly, also the smoothness of entrails, the necessary colour of the gall to please the gods, as well as the mottled splendour of the liver's lobe. And for the sacrifice I burned a thigh bone and a sheen concealed in fat, to teach their fine art, difficult to learn, of enticing the gods. I cleared man's vision to discern the flashing signs in fire, which were unknown before. All that was hidden I made plain. The treasures concealed beneath the earth, bronze, iron, silver, gold. Who can lay claim to their discovery but I? No one, I'm sure, except to make an empty boast. I'll sum it up for you in one short word. All human arts were founded by Prometheus.
You have already helped these mortals beyond measure. Now don't neglect yourself, unfortunate god. When you are freed, I'm confident of this. You will be no less strong than Zeus himself.
The fate who brings things to fulfillment has made no such decree. I will be bent by countless agonies before I am released. Skill is weaker than necessity.
Who plots the course then for necessity?
The triple fates, the unforgetting furies.
Can they be stronger than great Zeus himself?
Yes, for he too cannot escape his lot.
What is his lot, except to rule forever?
You may not know this. Ask no more.
It must be sacred knowledge that you're veiling.
Turn to some other matter. To speak of that, the time has not yet come. This must be deeply hidden. For only by holding it that way will I escape these agonies and this humiliation.
May Zeus, the omnipotent Lord of all things, never oppose his power against me. Let me not ever fail to approach the gods with holy feasts of bulls slaughtered beside the unending stream of Father Ocean. May I not injure the gods with words from my mouth, and may this resolve remain with me. May it not fade away.
How sweet it is to receive throughout one's life the rewards of confident hope. Nourished by faith, the heart thankfully shines with joy. But you, defiant, not bending, though racked by 1,000 torments, you make me shudder. Standing alone, you speak your own mind before Zeus. You give too much honour to mortals. This is your punishment.
What favour have your favours won you? What succour can you hope for, friend, from creatures of a day? Did you not see the feebleness, the blind, sleepwalking dream these mortals live in? Never will their plans transgress what Zeus ordered.
This I have learned from your misfortune, Prometheus, miserable god. It is a different song now than the one I sang to grace your nuptial bath and bed, after you charmed with gifts and won Hesione, my blessed sister.
Enter Isle.
What land is this? What tribe? Who is that man I see chained to a windswept rock in this ferocious winter? What was his crime that earned him such a death? Oh, tell me where on earth I have been driven. Ah! The gadfly, it stings me, the ghost of earthborn Argus. It stings me again. Keep him away. I am afraid of seeing his 10,000 eyes, but he, the herdsman, follows me with his sly gaze, dead but not dead, for the grave does not hide him. But rising from the underworld, he follows me, chases me, wretched and hungry, along the sands of the seashore. And over to me from afar drifts the somnolent tune of the reed pipe joined with wax. Iai, eoi, popoi. Where are they taking me, these far wandering steps, again and again? What did I do? What did I do, son of Cronus? What fault did you find in me that you would yoke me to such pain, driving me mad with fear of a gadfly's sting? Destroy me with fire, bury me under the earth, throw me as food to the monsters of the sea, but Lord, hear my prayers. Do not grudge me the favor I ask. Surely my endless wandering has taught me enough. I can't find a way to escape my troubles. Do you hear the lament of the cow-horned maiden?
How could I not hear the voice of the gadfly, frenzied daughter of Inachus, who once fired the heart of Zeus with love and is now forced to study on endless, long, twisted paths the hatred of Hera?
Who are you that you know who my father was and can name the disease that haunts my hours, harassing, driving me now and at all times to flee the peace that I crave? Tell me, tormented one, who are you? Speak to my misery. Oh, my unfortunate life! Pain, hunger, and deadly fear are my only friends. By leaps and by bounds, stung by this gadfly I run, always outrun by her vengeance, without end. Among all the suffering beings, is there one like myself? Tell me, and tell me too, what the future will bring. And is there a cure for me? Tell me plainly, speak the truth if you know it, and I will listen.
I will tell you clearly what you want to know, not weaving riddles, but with simple words, as friends speak to each other without guard. I am Prometheus, who gave fire to man.
Oh, you, the benefactor of mankind, wretched Prometheus, why this punishment?
I only just now stopped lamenting that.
Will you not grant me what I ask for then?
Ask, and I'll tell you all you wish to know.
Tell me who shackled you in this ravine.
Zeus by his will, Hephaestus by his hand.
And for what crime is the penalty?
Let what I told you be sufficient answer.
Just one more thing. When will my suffering end? Is there a limit to this misery?
Better for you to not know than to know.
Don't hide from me what I have yet to suffer.
I'm not withholding it for lack of friendship,
Then why refuse to tell me everything?
because to do so might appall your spirit.
Do not be kinder to me than I want.
Since you demand it, I will tell you. Listen.
Not yet. Grant me a part of this satisfaction. Let me learn more about her sickness first, by hearing from her own lips what it was that brought such ruin upon her. Then let her hear from you the future trials that she must suffer.
It is for you, Io, to grant this favor, especially as these are your father's sisters. It will be worth your waiting if you unburden yourself of your bitter tale while they pay tribute with their tears.
How can I not comply? In clear words you will learn all that you want to know, though just to speak of it, the god sent storm, and then this hideous mock of my appearance makes me ashamed. Into my maiden chamber visions came by night and came again, secret visitors that spoke to me with smooth and urging voices. O maiden greatly blessed, why are you still a virgin, when you could be the bride of the Supreme? Zeus is in love with you, the dart of passion has set him on fire. He wants to share his pleasure with you. Don't spurn the gods, bad child, but go to Lerna, to the deep meadow where your father's flocks graze, so Zeus's eye may find relief from longing. These apparitions haunted me night after night, until at last I found the courage to tell my father. He then sent many messengers to Pytho and Dodona, to find out there what should be done or said to please the gods. But they came back with riddling answers that were too dark to fathom, or that tricked the mind with double meanings. But then a message came to Aeschylus, and this time it was an unmistakable command, to drive me from my home, my fatherland, and to set me loose, to wander at my will to the very limits of the world. And if he did not do so, a fiery bolt from Zeus would blot out his entire people. Those were the prophecies of Loxias, and Aeschylus, obeying them, drove me out and shut his doors against me, weeping, for it was Zeus who pulled the reins and forced him against his will. Immediately my shape and mind became distorted, my head grew horns, and I, chased by the gadfly, fled with frantic leaps to that sweet stream Kechna, good to drink from and learn a spring. But my appointed cowherd was earthborn Argus, terrible in his wrath. He followed me, he watched my steps, peering with his countless eyes. Then an unhoped for sudden death destroyed him, but I continued, driven by the gods and scourge, the gadfly, from land to land. Now you have heard what happened, and if you know what still awaits me, tell me. Don't serve me the cold truth, warmed up with false words. There is no sickness worse than that.
Stop! Never did I want such terrible words to come into my hearing, nor such revolting images of suffering, offensive and unbearable. Horror freezes my heart with a double-edged point. Oh, fate! Fate, what have you done with Io?
You moan too soon. Your fear is full before its time. Wait till you hear the rest.
Speak, tell it all. There's comfort for the sick in knowing clearly what their future pains will be.
Your first request was easy to fulfill, to hear her tell the history of her ordeal. Now listen to what is to come. The afflictions this young girl must suffer yet at Hera's hands. As for you, child of Aeschylus, harbor my words within your heart, that you may recognize the end of your unhappy wandering when it comes. First, from this spot, Turn toward the rising sun and cross the untilled plains until you reach the Scythian nomads, whose wicker houses are built on top of wagons with well-wrought wheels, a warlike tribe armed with far-reaching bows. Do not go near them. Rather, keep to the surf line of the groaning sea and travel on. Off to your left, there live the iron-working Chalybes, of whom you must be wary, for they are savage and do not bid strangers welcome. Next you will pass the river Euphrates, which is well named for its impetuous currents cannot be forded. So travel on until you reach Mount Caucasus, the highest mountain, from whose very brow the river plunges forth. Scaling these crests, close neighbors of the stars, take the path toward noon until you find the Amazons, the race of women sworn to enmity of men, who one day will inhabit Themyscira by the river Thermodon, where Salminidos, the sailor-hating sea gorge, fierce stepmother to passing ships, stands foaming in her rage. The Amazons will guide you on your way, and they will do so gladly. Then, just by the narrow portals of the lake, you'll reach the isthmus of Cameria. You must move on from there and with a bold heart cross the channel of Meotis. Forever after, mortals will remember this your crossing, and call it Bosphorus, the Cow's Ford. With Europe at your back, you will arrive in Asia. To the chorus. Does not the tyrant of the gods strike you as violent in everything he does? A god who longed for union with a mortal girl and forced on her this curse of wandering? You, maiden, have been dealt a cruel suitor. For what you heard from me just now, I fear, was barely the beginning.
Ew! Ah! Ah!
Again you scream, again you moan. What will you say when you have heard the whole of it?
Is there more suffering you have to tell her?
A storm-swept sea of pain and misery.
What is the good of life to me now? Why don't I throw myself from this hard precipice and free myself of all this horror? Would be better to die once and quickly than drag myself through years and years and years of pain.
Ah, you would find it hard to bear what I must bear. I cannot die. My suffering will continue without end until the tyranny of Zeus is overthrown.
Zeus overthrown, is that conceivable?
You would be glad, I think, to see that happen.
Why not, when all my suffering comes from Zeus?
You may rejoice then. It will come to pass.
And who will strip the tyrant of his scepter?
He will, through his own ill-considered judgment.
In what way? Tell me, if telling does no harm.
A marriage, which he will regret.
Divine or human? Can it be said? Then say it.
You want her name? It isn't nameable.
And will it be his wife who overthrows him?
She bears a son who's stronger than his father.
Can he do nothing to avert this doom?
Nothing, unless my chains are lifted from me.
But who will free you against Zeus's will?
My savior will descend from your own womb.
What do you say? My child will rescue you?
10 generations, then another 3.
This oracle I can no longer fathom.
Don't seek to learn your trouble's full extent then.
Don't offer me a gift and then withhold it.
Of 2 prophetic stories, you may have one.
Which are they? Say it, and leave the choice to me.
So be it. Shall I reveal your further suffering, or tell the story of him who will release me?
Grant her one of the 2, and me the other. Do not begrudge me your words. Tell her clearly the rest of her wanderings, but me the deliverer. That is my wish.
Since you're so eager, I won't disappoint you. I'll tell you everything you asked to hear. First to you, Io. I shall give account of the far-flung, meandering course of your adventures. Inscribe it in the tablets of your mind. After you cross the stream that bounds the continents, go on towards sunrise and its flaming eye, straight through a soundless sea, until you come to the Gorgonian plains of Kisthonus, where the 4 Cadus dwell, 3 ancient maidens in the shape of swans, but with one eye among them, and a single tooth. Neither the sun's rays nor the moon by night have ever seen them. Nearby, you'll find their winged sisters, snake-haired, human-hating gorgons, the sight of which will kill the breath of any mortal who beholds them. I tell you this by way of warning. Beware as well of Zeus's sharp-toothed, barkless dogs, the griffins, and the one-eyed horsemen called the Arimaspians, who dwell around the spring of liquid gold that feeds the river Pluto. Do not approach them. Thus you will come to a very far-off land inhabited by black men living near the sources of the sun. There is a river called the Ethiops. Follow along its banks until you reach the steep drop where, by the Bybline mountains, Nilos sends forth his pure and holy flood. He'll be your guide to the three-cornered land of Nilotis, where it is destined that you, Io, and your descendants will found your distant colony. If anything I've said feels hard to fathom or confusing, ask, and I will give you a clear account. I have more time than I would like.
If there is something more you have to tell about her dreadful wandering, or something you left out, do speak. If all is told, though, grant us the tale we asked for. Surely you remember.
She has now learned her journey's full extent, but to convince her that what she heard was true and not imagined, I will describe the trials that she endured before she came here. Her knowledge will bear witness to my words. I shall omit the greater part of what you went through and only tell your latest wanderings. For after you had come to the Molossian plains, you reached Thesprotian Zeus's shrine of prophecy, Dodona, on her lofty ridge, and heard that marvel past belief, the singing oaks, saluting you in clear, unriddling words. Thou shalt be Zeus's fabled bride one day. Is that a smile I see? Was your heart flattered? Then, goaded by the gadfly, you rushed on and along the coast to the great Gulf of Rhea, from where you turned and, driven by a storm, reversed your course. Forever now that recess of the sea shall bear the name Ionian, as a memorial of your wayfaring to mortals everywhere. These are the proofs for you of how my mind sees more than what is visible. The rest I will unfold to you and her in common, starting again where I left off before. There is a town, Canopus, at the far limit of the land, lodged in the silt at the very mouth of Nilos. There Zeus will bring you to your senses and cause you to conceive, simply by touching you with his unharming hand. You will bring forth a black son, Epiphos, the one conceived by touch, and he will enjoy all the fruits of the land watered by broad-flooded Nilos. 5 generations after him, there shall return to Argos 50 daughters, not of their own choice, but in flight from marriage with their cousins, while these, with fluttering hearts, pursue their forbidden wives like hawks in chase of doves. But a god will begrudge them their bodies. Those will find refuge on Pelagian soil, but first the men shall perish at a female Ares' murdering hand. For in a bold night vigil, each maiden will take her groom's life, dipping a 2-edged sword into his throat. May all my enemies enjoy a bridal night like that. However, one of the maidens will be charmed by love to spare her bed companion. Faced with the choice, and with her purpose blunted, she will prefer to be called coward than murderess, and it is she who will give birth in Argos to a race of kings. It would take many words to tell it clearly, but from this seed shall spring a hero, famous for his bow, who will release me from this suffering. Such was the prophecy my ancient mother, the Titan Themis, revealed to me. But how and where would need a lengthy telling, and knowing it would bring no gain to you.
It's creeping in again, the spasm, a twitch, a roaring flight of thought. The gadfly's dart, forged without fire, it stings me. In terror, my heart pounds against the door of reason, eyes whirling in their sockets. I stagger over my course. Chased by the panting breath of madness, my tongue fails. Words, a turbid flood, break blindly in a wave of ruin, hateful without meaning.
Exit aisle.
Wise, oh wise indeed was the man who first pondered this truth and then spoke it, that a marriage of equals surpasses all others, that a lowly craftsman should not seek marriage among those who boast of their riches, nor among those who glory in noble birth.
Never, never. Immortal fates elect me to be Zeus's bed companion. Let me not be approached by a heavenly suitor. Io's loveless maidenhood, after spurning the god, makes me shudder, exhausted, child that she is, and hounded by Hera's hate.
May I find a husband who is equal to me, whom I need not fear, and may the love of the mighty gods not ever cast its inescapable eye on me. That is war without a battle. That is a way with no way out. Who would I be on such a path? What shelter could I find from the wrath of Zeus?
I tell you, Zeus, with all his arrogance, will be brought low. He is already planning the marriage that will throw him from his omnipotence into oblivion. The curse of his father, Kronos, spoke when he was driven from his ancient throne, will be fulfilled then. No other god can help him to escape those evils, but I know the what and the how. So let him sit there thundering his might and flinging fire-spewing missiles from above. None of this will help him to avoid his downfall and the indignity, the unendurable disgrace of it. Such is the adversary he himself is even now equipping against himself. A prodigy, all but impossible to fight, who will discover a flame more fierce and sudden than lightning, a crash more thunderous than thunder, and who will shatter even Poseidon's lance, which makes the sea and land to quake. Struck by that fist, he'll understand the difference between a ruler and a slave.
You threaten Zeus with what you hope will happen.
I speak the future and what I desire.
Must we expect someone to conquer Zeus?
His yoke will be far harsher than my own.
Aren't you afraid to say such words out loud?
What should I fear? It's not my fate to die.
He could inflict pains worse than those you suffer.
Then let him do so. He cannot surprise me.
Wise are the worshippers of Adrastea.
Pray, worship, fawn upon your despot of the moment, but Zeus means less to me than nothing. Let him rule a little while, let him play king. He will not be the highest god for very much longer.
Enter Hermes.
But look, here comes his lackey, the carrier pigeon of our new commander-in-chief. No doubt he comes with some important news.
Supreme Conniver, master of complaints, fire thief who mocks the gods and idolizes day flies. The father wants to know, what is the marriage which you boast will cause his downfall? Speak your truth plainly, without riddles, subterfuge, and do not make me take this voyage twice, Prometheus. These should be proof enough that Zeus does not take kindly to your tricks.
Pompously spoken, as befits a mouthpiece of the gods. You're young, the lot of you, and young in power, and think your fortress is secure from sorrow, but I've already seen 2 tyrants fall, and see the third, our present ruler, falling soon, more suddenly and much more shamefully than they. Or do you think I'll cringe before these upstart gods and tremble? I am farther from that than you can imagine, so scurry back again the way you came. You will receive no answer to your question.
This is the arrogance that brought you here.
Let me assure you, I would not exchange my own misfortune for your slavery.
I'm sure it's preferable to be the bolder slave than other Zeus's trusted messenger.
A tyrant's trust dishonors those who earn it.
What honor is there in your insolence?
It spits contempt at insolence itself.
I think you rather relish your condition.
Relish? I wish my enemies could relish this, and I count you among them.
You're blaming me for your misfortune?
I'll say it plainly, I hate all the gods for repaying right with wrong and good with evil.
You've clearly lost your mind. This is a sickness.
I'm sick, if hating those who harm one is a sickness.
You'd be unbearable if you were free.
Oh, misery.
That's an expression Zeus has never learned.
As time grows old, it teaches everything.
But you have yet to learn some common sense.
How true! I wouldn't talk with servants if I had it.
It seems you will not answer Zeus's question.
Am I indebted to him for his kindness?
You're mocking me as if I were a child.
And are you not a child, and even simpler than a child, to think that I would tell you anything? No torture, promise, or device will ever move me to tell Zeus the things I know until he sets me free from this outrageous bondage. So let him throw his firebolts, let him terrify the world with the white wings of blizzards and the growl and roar of earthquakes. I won't bend. I certainly won't tell him by whose hands he'll be removed from his supremacy.
What is your profit in this? Think about it.
This was determined a long time ago.
Think better of it, fool. Take stock of who you are and where your fate has brought you.
Your words have no effect on me. You might as well try to persuade a wave out of its course. Don't think that I, for fear of Zeus's whims, will ever, like a woman, raise my upturned hands, imploring him to set me free. I do not have it in me.
I've all but pleaded with you, and it seems I've said too much already. Nothing touches you or softens your resolve. You gash your teeth into the bit like an unbroken colt that's newly harnessed, thrashing against the reins. But all your vehemence rests on the weak foundations, mere cleverness, a shield. What good is obstinate will untamed What good is obstinate will untamed by sound thought and good measure? Consider the storm that will rise up against you. If you refuse to heed my words, a threefold tidal wave of misery, impossible to escape. For first, the Father will destroy this jagged cliff with thunder and lightning, and bury you, still gripped by the embrace inside it. Then after an enormous span of time, you will come back again into the light, and Zeus's winged hound, a scarlet eagle, will carve your body into ragged shreds of flesh. He will return day in, day out, as an unbidden guest, to feast upon your blackened liver, and in this plain do not expect a limit or an end, until some god appears as a successor to take your tortures as his own, and willingly go down into the gloom of Hades and the black depths of Tartarus. Make your decision in the light of that. These are no boasted threats of the true words. These are no boastful threats, but true words, all too cleverly spoken. For Zeus's mouth does not know how to lie. Each word of his comes true. But you, weigh carefully what you must do, and don't hold stubbornness above considered judgment.
To me, what Hermes says seems true and timely. He counsels you to drop your stubbornness and listen to sound reason. Heed his words. It's shameful for the wise to dwell in error.
The message this proclaimer barks at me was known to me before, but for an enemy to suffer at an enemy's hand is natural and no disgrace. So let the doubly twisted breath of fire strike my head, let savage winds and thunder convulse the world and chafe the bowels of earth into a frenzy. Let its storm lash the ocean's waves till they confound the courses of the stars, and let the vortex of inescapable necessity conduct my body to the eternal night of Tartarus. He cannot kill me.
Such words and thoughts are signs of madness. How do these wild boasts differ from the ravings of a lunatic? But you, who weep on his behalf, hurry and leave this place. Go far away and quickly, before the unforgiving roar of thunder stuns your senses.
Speak to me in a different voice, or give me counsel I can follow. None of what you say is bearable. How can you ask such wickedness of me? I want to suffer with him what he suffers, for I have learned to despise traitors. There is no plague more worthy of being spat on.
Remember, then, what I foretold you. Do not blame fortune when disaster hunts you down, and don't say later that Zeus brought misery upon you without warning. Don't ever say this. You brought it on yourselves, knowingly, not taken by surprise nor by deception. You walk into the net of infinite disaster through your own folly.
Exit Hermes. The earth is shaking now in truth. no longer in words. A hollow roar of thunder rolls up from the depths, great winding coils of light shoot forth with heat and hissing squalls whirl up dust clouds. Now all the winds are at each other's throats, the sea is mingled with the sky, and here it comes in plain view, the onslaught sent by Zeus for my own terror. O holy Mother Earth, O sky whose light revolves for all, you see me, you see the wrongs I suffer. The end. This is the first of a trilogy that Aeschylus wrote, but it's the only play that survived. Thank you, Sky. You're going to shoot off. He's away camping somewhere. It was a translation by Joel Agee, his name is, and interesting character that his dad was a novelist, but he grew up in the GDR, in the German Democratic Republic, before he moved to the United States. I was trying to get a hold of him. I found his email address, Joel Agee, because I was particularly interested that he brings up Sicily. And I was in Sicily at the time when I was reading this, and that mentions Etna, and I asked AI, does Sicily appear in Aeschylus in Prometheus? And AI was denying this, that there was a case at all. You've heard of it, yeah.
It's
Sicily.
The great, yes, but
Yeah.
Etna, it's Etna.
It is Etna. Yeah, oh well, that's good to know. But anyway, he didn't reply. I'm still going to try and track him down. And, yeah. Now, I don't know whether you would want to reply to that immediately, Camilla, or if anybody else.
Maybe it should be emphasised. Zeus is this supreme alpha male, obviously being presented in such a way. And you know, Prometheus in this play, no question he's standing up against that and resisting, but he also presents in some of the speeches that he was a bit double-dealing. He's a bit trickster in between the old Titans and the new Olympians, and somehow he's kind of been dealing with both sides, but I'm not disrespecting Prometheus here. But it was great to hear Io's voice, and the interplay. I mean, Io and the Aeschylus are really a kind of feeling that they have a lot of solidarity and hope. And the Aeschylus help their kinsmen, Prometheus as well.
Where was it that I read, well, I'm very ignorant of all this stuff, but that Karl Marx identified as Prometheus? Was it in some sense? No, am I not right?
He quite obsessed, you know. I mean, he wrote about Prometheus in his dissertation and so on. And,
Of course, he did all this stuff as his doctorate into at a very young age. Marx's subject was classic Greek mythology.
and Prometheus even makes an appearance in Capital.
Does he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the appearance?
Oh, don't ask me. I can't remember his particular quote, but it is something about being bound.
Yeah. Because it is a kind of, it can never die. And if you think of Prometheus as kind of imagery of the working class itself that can do all this work and labour and skill and craft, and always being tortured, but can never die, so you can understand why that it has this special intelligence when there's also Shelley's Prometheus on that, which Shelley tried to write instead, to fill in the gap. He's going to stick it wasn't. So it was this great romantic, of that era of the romantic poetry, it was this great romantic noble hero standing up.
I will say thank you to all of you because, I mean, I heard it for the first time. I mean, I almost deliberately didn't hear Greek mythology because it was one thing more that I needed when I was trying to work out the researches in the mythology, and I just thought, well, I mustn't go too near, these extraordinary, powerful myths. But thanks to you lot, I don't know, it shook me. The language, the strength of it, the power of it, almost every sentence was just extraordinary. And you did so well, all of you. It was really beautiful. Beautiful stuff. Just what it alive. Absolutely. And mostly vibrant and living. Marvellous. Really wonderful. A real experience for me, actually. I'm sure for everyone here. Different ways.
I mean, I think it's a very recent translation, and what is also interesting about it is the way it's laid out like this. It's sort of in the middle of the page, written like that. So I mean, it is almost like verse, and it rattles along. So it's a very, very good translation. But and also, what was really interesting is that the guy Joel Agee, he then picked up on a Polish Marxist aesthetic, as the professor called Jan Kot, who he left Poland at some point and did go to the States as well, and wrote a famous book that I'd come across a long time ago called Shakespeare Our Contemporary. But he wrote this book as well on the Greeks called The Eating of the Gods, and wrote a chapter on Prometheus and Aeschylus and talked about it as a vertical axis that society was operating on that basis, and it almost like, the idea of it being a mountain. And Joel Agee said that gave him confirmation about that his instinct for writing it in that way was serving that cause. And Camilla had mentioned that Jan Kot, some of his stuff, he goes into some of these early myths as well.
He takes the mechanic, the trickery over the sacrifice.
Yeah.
So what was Bertolt Brecht's role? Did I hear something about translation background?
No, I don't.
That was Subrin.
Sorry?
That was Subrin.
Dr. Subrin's
Oh,
essay.
sorry.
No, Darcy wrote an essay on it. Yeah, no. I mean, we've been doing a lot of Brecht this week as well, but it's been, so Jack, you were.
I enjoyed it as well. Fantastic stuff. I definitely admire Prometheus. I know you can get into using previous god or titans, and so you don't want to take it in a sort of in a straightforward way. I think it speaks for us, but I also thought it was worthwhile just thinking. I couldn't tell you the date, but if you think about it, all the women were played by men. So there might have been a woman's chorus, but they would have been wearing masks or whatever. It would be an all-male audience, and my guess is, and I'm not sure of this, but my guess would be it would also be an all-citizen audience, and this would be Athens. So this is a republic that's got democracy. So all citizens.
For women and not for I mean, that's Prometheus is standing for those initiated men.
Well, of course, that's why I'm just saying that this will be in front of a male audience, that everyone participating is male. But I'm also making the point that if you take that male audience, if you take male citizens, they'd established a democracy. And, Ellen Miskins Wood, I think wrote a book, Citizen Peasant. And so although, they were coming into Athens, most of them would be living outside in Attica. These would be slave owners, but maybe have one slave. Enough money anyway to maintain themselves either as oarsmen for the Navy or as heavy infantry. Anyway, so I'm making the point that in many ways it's an elite audience, but it's also sort of a popular audience as well. It's not straightforward, and that's what I'm thinking. So women are oppressed, slaves are oppressed. It's a sort of, in many ways, a chauvinist audience in the sense Athens is ruling and exploiting an empire, and yet there's still that sense of citizenship, solidarity, and I really loved all the stuff about tyrants being overthrown, because of course the Republic was established by overthrowing tyrants. In that sense, there's a warning about tyrants. And also, again, I've read Robert Graves, you know, as a kid, and I think he's wonderful. But also, I mean, I have heard of the end of the gods. I mean, we get it in the Norse mythology, and I didn't know it was that up front. And just finish with this. I don't know if anyone watched the American show called Chaos. Anyone watch that one? Anyway, it's about, there you are. What did you think of it?
It was a light, amusing take on it.
Okay. I thought it was really good. It was a completely different take. But anyway, it's sort of set in California.
Yeah.
Right? Anyway, the point I'm going to make there is that they cancelled the third series. We don't know what happens. But Zeus, the thunder god, the king of the gods, is haunted by the coming end of the gods. And actually in this series brings Prometheus to Olympus to cross-examine him, to bribe him, to tell me the secret of how we're going to fall. I don't know how the series ended because they cancelled it, but I just thought that sort of sense of things changing, things constantly go through change. So you had Kronos, who actually is the father of Zeus, who again knew that his son and his daughters would overthrow him, and in that myth, he eats them, right? So I don't know if you've ever seen the painting by
Goya.
Goya, who, you know, he's eating, and then I think they give him something, don't they? I can't remember which god it was, but then he spews them up and they kill him. And so you've got this cycle, and I thought that was fascinating that Zeus in this knew that he was going to be overthrown. Does anyone know who overthrew him? Because I don't.
They did a deal to alleviate that he actually, in the end, Prometheus gives him kind of, let me go and sort it out.
That's the Hercules.
It's Hercules.
Okay, got it.
But it's supposed to be to do with Thetis, the senior. It's supposedly, but I'm not quite sure what it's supposed to.
Yeah. So just when you mentioned what you mentioned about the way it would have probably been played out, that they mentioned equal marriage. It's very explicit. It's quite fascinating because they mentioned equal marriage and it resonates like, oh yeah, but what would they have meant? Because an equal marriage in this text would have definitely not meant an equal marriage in what we would say now. So just to add on, fascinating.
And
so I'm really not familiar with any of this, but I think, Camilla had the point about, was Prometheus a form of Jesus?
Well, I mean, Jesus in a sense of Jesus rise from the dead, comes back to life. Prometheus doesn't die. He has a trickster, he's a very trickster-like aspect, that he can be all torn up, but still come back. And the pulse, the very fast pulse is being torn up with evil, isn't it? Regrowing.
Okay, well, so what it seemed to me at times was that Prometheus was saying, look, all this suffering I'm enduring for you because I gave you these things. And it did remind me, I mean, maybe it's just a coincidence of this God who goes against the, not a God, but the one that rebels and has to suffer for us. seems
Yeah,
to
it
be
is
one of
somewhat
the themes.
something like
Yeah, right.
Well, it's not a major thing. It was just, I'm glad you brought up the kind of context, because I think the sort of performance context and who's telling the story to who is really important for these things. And like, I don't know whether anybody knows anything about, you know, what are the women and the slaves in that time period, that context. Are they telling these stories? Are they telling other stories? What are the versions? What are the, you know, I don't know if that's something that's actually even possible to know at this distance, but yeah, do you?
Well, and if you go through classical texts like this, I've done it with Lysistrata, the famous comedy, which is about sex strike, and also texts like Euripides' Bacchae, Maenads. So the Maenads are referring to women's experience in Eleusinian mysteries, actual Dionysic worship. In Lysistrata, it goes, the actual rituals held by women as female kin coalitions would be, and they would be on lunar calendars in Greek, in Athenian actual months, moons of worship. So this would be very much, they would have real knowledge of such stories. They would have particular knowledge of the stories of the Danaids that were in there, of the women that murdered their husbands. So these sequences of the blood, the fire, and so forth, that would be part of the whole background. They would have knowledge of that. They wouldn't necessarily, there might have been occasions where there were some elite women involved in the audiences for the great tragedian and comedy competitions which were held up on the Acropolis, the theatres there. So it's not like we know nothing about these, what we should understand more about is actual Greek women's experience in ritual activity and what kinds of things would have been part of that. They would have had quite, we know all about the initiation that happened at Brauron for Artemis, goddess Artemis, who's connected to childbirth and fertility. So all of that would have been massively important to Greek women's lives.
You say that the sex strike was linked to Thesmophoria.
Thesmophoria is the great, I mean, it's always like the Christmas of the whole Greek world, the major celebration of being Greek at all, across not just Athens, it would be everywhere, is basically women's worship. And Jane Ellen Harrison is a great classicist from early 20th century who was taking in material from Anthropology on male initiation ritual, understanding female initiation, understanding a lot of material from Durkheim and elsewhere. And Thesmophoria would be worship not of the Olympians. There really wasn't attention to the Olympians, all this stuff about Zeus. It was for Demeter, Persephone. And so sacrifices of the pigs in like trenches of blood, with women taking herbal preparations which had to do with menstrual cycles, had to do with reproductive cycles. So I mean, there really is a very different perspective on what's kind of being heard in the theatre, perhaps, than what is the experience of women at a much more grand level. That Thesmophoria was vital for the entire future of the citizenry, of the safety of Athens itself, of a couple of the girls, a very good family, would be up on the hill of the Acropolis, living up there, and would have the duty to feed honey cakes to the serpent, who's like a king like an emblem of the Athenian king itself. They must feed them at a particular time of the moon. You've got to remember, there is all this going on, this lunar rhythm, and these rituals which have female kin solidarity at their core.
And I imagine the serpent would have been see a dragon, a dracon.
Dracon. So there is strange references to Argos and what is Io's relation to Argos, which is a dracon. It's a dragon all-seeing with so many eyes. So she is being made out as being fleeing away from this dragon Argos. But actually the dragon Argos will be the guard of her seclusion. So it's a situation rather like the Renaissance situation that's happening. So there's a lot of contradictions in the way it's being presented.
Well, that's what I think that we could continue looking at it with the contradictions, rather than sort of coming down on one side or the other, showing that there are these.
Yeah. I mean, all of these are stories that are coming out in literate form, very high, beautiful poetry, extraordinary, the choruses, the tragedies, and so on. And these are very learned, educated men are interfacing with a long, long tradition of ritual. And they're carrying from that these structures and lots of these contradictions. All the things that the myths try to do is solve the problems of periodicity, solve the problems. When you put patriarchy on a society, you're getting women and men stuck in the same place. So how do you maintain the rhythms of the cosmos in that situation? That's what Indo-European mythology will be obsessed with.
That incredible depiction of the heifer
Oh, yeah.
wandering all over the known world. That does remind me of the stories of the two well-erected sisters, because they traversed across the landscape. This is the best known myth in all anthropology. This is the story of the two well-erected sisters. The two sisters, they're goddesses, and they move a little bit, and then they stop. And when they stop, they menstruate. And that leads to a whole bunch of children being born, or it leads to a great oasis, or a waterhole or something, and then they move on again. They move and then they stop, they move and then they stop. And it's like they're producing the song lines, and these lines of potency and power. They're not like territorial boundaries, they're transgression, they bind the entire landscape of the Australian continent into a fabric of connectedness, these song lines. But they're the first beings to move across the landscape and create these points of power, and water as well, of course. There have been these women who were sort of men. They were women, but they were not feminine women at all. They either had, in some cases, chiffresses, which were rather big and long, or they were women dressed as men and with spears and cotton down coverings, which these days, in recent times, only men can have. So they're kind of gender ambivalent women, and powerful because ambivalent, and by no means feminine. The idea of feminine is just nowhere with that mythology, and the figure you enacted, I don't think you're very feminine, you're female.
Well, that's just me.
With the gadfly, and she's turned into the girl with horns.
And of course, the whole goddess. I mean, there's no question that the oldest known ritual. And people don't really deny that. They know that the Kalahari-san ritual of the year-round bull dance, where the girls turn into born animal bulls. So you change you're a female, you change your sex and your species to a time. It's a sort of paradoxical creature. There's no question that that figure is a version of that. So if you're a female who looks like a female and that's it, you're clearly not powerful. But when you start
Changing
everything around, wrong sex, wrong changing species,
it's really worth saying. There are many Bushman, Khoisan, Kalahari stories, one about girls with horns, two about girls fending off and dealing with the threats of gods who are after them with lust. Usually they're trickster gods in egalitarian cultures, But the different result, the difference of outcome that happens in Bushman stories when the girls deal with it, they have all kinds of ways and means to lull these creatures to sleep and calm them down, or else really get feisty and like swipe off God's. There's this wonderful story of God's testicles.
That's the funniest story I've ever heard.
And that is a funny version of all the stories about Cronus and Uranus and so on, where they're swiping off their testicles. In the Bushman stories, it's done by a girl who's being attacked or would be raped, and she deals with it. And what happens with that? Literally, the testicles jump away, running away over the sandy desert, and in the end they expire because they're being chased by bees. It's a very trickster type of symbolism. And they end up in the sand, and the next day, after the girl has told the story to all the other people in the camp, and they don't believe her, they go and find them, and they find the most delicious truffles in the sand. So the god gets just desserts, and the people get the dessert. And it's just so different from the patriarchal rape culture of all these stories of the nymphs being pursued, the nymphs being abducted by the god. I mean, true. That is what the Indo-European expectation is.
One of these conferences of coming to university, I should tell us the story of God's testicles.
Well, yeah.
It's absolutely extraordinary.
Well, trickster stories in general.
The sides splitting with laughter.
And that story is used in, like, for young boy initiates to give them a right, tell him, you know, you want to do stuff like that, you just see.
Ted, did you write about it?
Just a little bit. I don't know whether it was contemporary, but it was a very famous cartoon picture, illustration picture, if you will, of Marx chained to the rocks with the, I was always told vulture, but eagle, doesn't matter, you know, with Prussian censorship. So, you know, that obviously wasn't, you know, drawn by Marx. But it was done by someone sympathetic to Marx. So yeah, I can see why someone like Marx. It's not that he wants the whole package. You know, he doesn't believe that he's going to bring, you know, fire and teach all the work. But nonetheless, you can see why he would identify, because you've got the repression and the vengeance of the state. So I just think you can see why other, you know, Democrats you mentioned, Shelley, wasn't it?
Shelley, yeah.
You know, you can see why these people identified with this particular titan, as opposed to the others, because, you know, you've got creepy Hermes, and, okay, Aphrodite's beautiful, and, but, you know, it's Prometheus that's, to me at least, the one that stands out, because all the rest are, you know, would-be Zeus's, you know, standing over. I mean, I'll finish with this. I've just reread the Odyssey, because I watched 5 minutes of the film. Didn't go to pay my money. I just went, shit to that. I don't want to listen to any more or watch any more of this crap. So I went and reread the book, and what struck me in terms of the book is just the brutality, the male chauvinism. How should I put it? You know, from our moral point of view, appalling behaviour that Odysseus, you know, he kills all the suitors. He's been screwing around all over the Mediterranean, and what you've got in the story, someone will have to prompt me in terms of names. Agamemnon's, you know, the chief Greek king in Troy, his wife commits adultery. When he comes back, because he's actually got, what's the one who... Cassandra, as well as other slaves, no doubt. She could tell the future, no one believes her. Anyway, his wife and his son kill him, right? and then no, his wife and lover kill him, and his son then kills his mother and her lover. He is a good guy in the story, of course. And if you take Penelope, which is Odysseus's wife, all she does for 10 years when Odysseus is in Troy is cry. Every day, every month. And she's, of course, a good girl. Because she doesn't have sex with anyone. She keeps herself pure, and she goes to her room and tricks the suitors. But every day she's crying. I got bored with her. Jesus God. So I much prefer Clytemnestra.
That's what
A poem that my dad wrote. My dad was a reasonably well-known war poet. He was published in a sort of penguin book of poems of the Second World War. But among the poems which weren't published, but I was reminded of, was one called Odysseus' Son. And it came to mind because I refused to go to see the bloody film, but I'm told that the film ended with the killing of the men by Odysseus, but didn't get to the fact that he killed all the women, all the maidservants. Just kill all the bloody women.
All the ones that
It
collaborate.
would be rather hard these days to show a film with this guy just killing all these women for no reason whatever. What is heroic about it? Why are we celebrating this vicious thug? So my brother, my sister, we all got together. We discovered my dad's poem, Odysseus' Thug, which made these points, and it described the whole thing about Odysseus is just this violent, rapist thug that's all over the bloody place, nothing to celebrate at all, and given published on Mastodon, because Rag has a sort of social media, Mastodon, people look at it. And for what it's worth, wasn't worth all that much really, but I mean, we managed to get my dad's corrected poem, a little bit. We got a bit of feedback. Quite a few people thought it was necessary to be said. But I mean, I just think you have to boycott that film because it's such falsehood, such distortion, I don't know, it's kind of the opposite of the actual. Maybe not absolutely.
But the understanding about the difference between Matt Damon and Matt Damon.
Do you know how the film's ending was deliberately distorted to make this guy, this thug, into something he wasn't?
My daughter enjoyed the film, apparently. I've not seen it, but I'll have to point her in the direction of the poem.
Well, apparently it's visually very striking. It's lovely to see the sort of islands of Greece and so on from the bottom of a boat with the oars, even though the boat was based on an old model, it was based on a Viking boat rather than the kind of the Athenians.
We're going to have to leave it there now, but thank you so much for today.